All right, everyone else is taking every last moment in this conversation. What did we want to hear more about? What are the features of a good story? All right.
So I'm going to try using whiteboard. Let's see if it works. So we're going to be reporting back and I'm going to be writing on a whiteboard. Is this exciting for everyone?
All right. Well, Emily gets her whiteboard set up.
Yes.
I think this is where we'll record people's responses to the second question. What are the features of a good
Yeah.
story?
Yes.
But before we do that, I'd like to hear just a little bit about, and this is, you could just raise your hand, jump in, um, or simply jump in. What would you like to hear more about? And let's go in the order we heard the speakers. In Manita's story about transforming um, human environment or human animal conflict through using elephant dung as a resource to produce high value mushrooms. What did you want to hear more about in that story? What would you add or ask the storyteller for? Anyone?
You may have a more general comment rather than specific to the story, by the way. So feel free to
Yeah,
also offer more general comments about
right.
what you discussed. What would you have liked to hear more about? What was missing? And then we'll go into what is the feature of a good story. Anyone?
Yes, Gaduru here. I think I would have loved to hear how Manita is working to address the issue of removing elephant dung and working with it in the mushroom project. Because once you remove the dung, of course, you affect the balance, the ecological balance. The contribution of the dung to the sustenance of the ecosystem is affected. Maybe just to hear how are they, or how is he addressing that?
Yeah, so
So,
you would have liked more detail on the actual content of the project.
all
Yes,
right.
just a little bit to address that.
All
Thank
right. Yes. And I happen to know that he's addressing that very well. Because of time constraints, we might have to create a whole side conversation about this very interesting project. I see Joshua.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my question to him is on the project that they're working on using mushroom as a solution for animal human wildlife conflicts. But could he share more of is how the end products, the mushroom, how are they consumed in the community or they are sold in an external market or based on the locality of where the interventions are happening?
Oh, this is so difficult. I want Manita to have a chance to answer all these questions, and Emily has just scolded me about my timekeeping. So, let's hear a few more questions, and then Manita, can we give you a tight 60 seconds to try to respond to these questions, which indicate evident interest? All right, I see Elisa and then Manya. You are muted, Elisa.
Right, hello. Yeah. I just want to understand. Is this project like a pilot? Is it some? Is it first you have or is it something that have been done in the past? And what was the challenge? Or is this something new? Like you have just like a pilot, or you just starting? Yeah, something like that. Thank you.
Great question, Manya.
Uh, for me, it was mostly about understanding the decision of why elephant dung and why not any alternative. Because if mushroom is the goal and livelihood is the goal, then we don't have to remove the a very important ecological component from the forest, which Gaturu also pointed. And an alternative can work just as better for livelihood uh, than the elephant dung. So
Ah,
it's more of a decision of why they decided and how they did it. How did community respond to the idea and the process of it? So maybe the origin of the story. I would have loved
Mm,
to know more about the origin of the story, basically. Yes.
wonderful. Thank you. And we might not have time for the origin story of this superhero process today, but I appreciate the request for that framing, and again reiterating that request for how is this contributing to rather than detracting from balance in the system. Arti, and then Manita, you have a big challenge ahead to try to give the world's quickest response.
A very quick one. For someone not from a background of conservation and biodiversity, I found like the beginnings were interesting for me, but as soon as we got in the middle sections of the stories, I suddenly lost. I got lost because I wasn't able to understand. Like I just didn't understand how the trunk really helped into mushrooms, you know. So if yeah, I mean, in general, if it was more probably personalized to an extent of someone who has absolutely no idea what this is, I think could have been slightly helpful.
Okay. Thank Manita, some a great deal of interest and some good feedback. Um, is there anything that you can very, very quickly clarify, maybe particularly on that question of balance that came up twice?
Yeah, I can maybe try to answer it in 1 minute or two. So the first question is on the balance. We are trying to maybe we don't collect the dung while they are wet because the elephant dung is large humus contributor to the ecosystem. And once it has dropped into the ground, the first thing that takes over is the beetle. And the beetle now has to lay the dung beetle, it has to lay the eggs. And the second one is the termite, but we take it after the termites have taken over as well. So we only are maybe removing the part of turning into humus or turning into the soil. And the first thing that really happened after what has really maybe made us to do this is that there was a lot of conflict in between human and the elephant, and this was as a result of trying to resolve one conflict, one problem. That is the problem of dry lands. We planted grass and the elephant came back, and there was also conflict. So to resolve that one, we saw there was need of trying this, and just trying it once, it really happened. And the project is still in the pilot stage, and looking forward to be able to upscale it to the other communities that have the same challenge.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah,
That was an amazing job of responding to 5 questions in under a minute. I do hope, with your permission, anyone who's interested in talking with Manita more in depth, and I see your question, Hakima, could we share your email with them if they write to us, so that you can engage with them? I know there were some really good technical questions previously as well. Hakima, quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. I just want to make sure that because when we say good story, so because there is spoken story and there is a written story, and it's like it's very different. Like spoken story might not be, it might fall flat, on the paper, like and vice versa. So it was just like want to make sure whether is it a spoken story or a written one that that we are talking about.
Thank you. Well, we've asked, by asking people to tell their story, we're in a spoken story format, but I appreciate that the larger context here, often we might initially present these stories in written format, and we'll move into talking about the very specific, crisp elements of that short written format in a few minutes. But here we're talking about spoken stories.
It can also happen the other way around, that you speak the story first and then you're asked for a proposal afterwards. But this is definitely the space. The space for these three storytellers was for a spoken story. So imagining that they're on a call with a donor, and they're telling their story. So let's move on to Caroline's
Oh.
story. Does anyone have any specific feedback on Caroline's story? And while we're really interested in the detail, I also think that it would be good for us to give feedback on how the stories were told.
Thank you.
Because this for me was is it's almost more important. This session today is about how to tell a good story. So does anyone have any feedback for Caroline, and or more general feedback for the three of them about how the story was told? Artie's already given the feedback about getting lost in the technical details when she didn't have a specific background. So that for me is that's the starting point. But yeah, Manya, go ahead.
For me also, so I wanted to understand that when they're telling their story, is it like a specific story or is like a pitch deck for the whole organization? Because there could be multiple things, like for Caroline, agribusiness, reforestation, fishermen, mangrove, soil, all the important things. And with High Atlas also, food, agrobiodiversity, mountains, earthquake, rehabilitation, culture, fragmentation. So I was somewhere maybe lost in the story because it was too much. So maybe personalizing the story in general, um, uh, giving a context, and then hitting with an issue which will encompass everything later might help better for people to get the hook. Uh, like to the donor to get them hooked. Okay, if I help with this specific problem, maybe everything will fall in place later. So that is something that I found missing in all the three. In Manita, it was still very compact and very centered because it was one issue. So I did not get lost. I did not find myself lost in his story, but other two, I was a little bit all over the place trying to understand everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this issue of specificity, personalization, and moving toward, as we're talking about the elements of a good story, maybe even having a character who helps us sort of take us on the journey through the problem that the project addresses and how it causes transformation. Rui, I see you. Can you unmute?
I mean, oh yeah. Sorry, I
Okay,
was
say
talking to
again.
myself.
Say again.
All right, thank you. Yes, the three have started their stories very, very well. And let me start with Melita, which is something that I believe and I agree with Manya. When you're starting a story, and which Menitas did, is to start with self and then connecting it with the land, which is where he was born. I felt that was very, very, very strong.
Mm.
And when you're pitching the stories about, in most cases, in my opinion, is that you should focus pretty much on the I, and then maybe later bring the we, because you know that you have a team and that is helping you and working with in order to achieve something. Because I'm saying this because when he started with the self and then the land and what he wanted to achieve, I was very attentive. But then somewhere in the middle, I got confused when he was talking about the general employment, which is a big thing. So when you are telling your story, you are pitching it to a potential donor who would want to see themselves in the story, in which then that can arouse their interest to invest in you. Otherwise, they won't have any, if you don't give them a reason to invest in your story, in which you should be a part of that story. And that, I mean, the story should be you, and the story also should be them. So this is where when it started, when he went out into the larger background, I kind of got lost. But when immediately when he mentioned the giraffe, I mean the elephants, then he mentioned the other benches into about the cow dunks, and where I understand and I started understanding the importance of biodiversity and ecosystem, what the elephant dunks could do. I also got an interest, and then somewhere it disappeared. A lot of things started coming in, and I kind of got confused. Similar to Caroline, was good. the last storyteller was very strong. She started very, very strong, and I was there. But because she made it so long, although I'm not a donor, but somehow I got confused in the so many jargons. I know I'll make the same. I've been making those mistakes and continue making those mistakes. But I would urge us not to do that when you're telling the story, not to take too long talking about it and also putting a lot of jargons, because English might not be the first or the second language to the potential donor. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. You're doing a lot of our work for us, all of you. I see. Hakima, is your hand still up or up again?
Can I respond to before we go ahead?
Yeah.
Because I'm not allowed to raise my hand, I can only bring down other people's hands, which is a strange ability as a host. Was just to respond to the point about the technical language, and also that you don't like the first language that the previous person was speaking about, is that you don't know the quote unquote scientific language that people speak. Like we can see from people's responses to the different stories here. Maybe someone's more interested in the soil, someone might be more interested in agrobiodiversity, someone may not have a background in this work at all. And you may not always know who is on the receiving end of your story. You may have an idea, but it's best to, that's why the why of your story needs to be the most important thing, because that's something that can translate to everyone. Why should they care? Why should they buy into this? And that's the thing that I think Manya was talking about. Like, you may be doing many different things, but what is the core of this that connects across all of it? Why do you do this, and why should the person listening be caring about it? And that sort of should come before you go into the how and the what and the all of the rest of it.
Thank you. All right. I see Jaya and then Elisa and then Hakima, if you're still trying to raise your hand.
Thank you so very much. First of all, I really want to appreciate the speakers who share their stories with us and trusting us with this. I love listening to it. And part of me was like, tell me more about it. I want to listen to your stories more, because we all could relate with it. And I was just wondering, hey, I spent many days with them, but still there were more of the details that I wanted to know more. If I just quickly reflect on as a feedback, there was one thing that I wanted to mention regarding the characters that we have already shared. I do resonate with other fellows who have shared. I was just wondering what Sim has mentioned around why, and maybe just taking it a little forward around knowing your audience. So whenever I am thinking to share my story, I'm like, it's the same story, but who the audience is. So I might tweak it based on my audience and their understanding. Are they young people? Are they investors? Are they participants? And when we talk about why, even in these stories, I wanted to maybe know, here we understand that we have mutually agreed that it's more towards donors and funders. But then again, why is like, do you really want to inspire them? I was just wondering, what's the purpose of the story? Is it just an inspiration? Is it they want me to take an action? So maybe reflecting on these two audience and the purpose of the story is just like evoking emotions in your audience. It's just like you want them to be mobilized, do something, or just take an inspiration. Apart from it, I think in some of the stories, though they were really amazing, but maybe a little of the transitions. So for example, when we just thought that there is a problem and we wanted to solve them, but that transition from introduction to the body and maybe to the conclusion. So I think that's very important. And then when we also talk about, and the transition should also be very smooth. In maybe because of the timing constraints, sometimes we're like, it's just an abrupt transition. So we're just looking for maybe attaching some of the minor details so that the transition becomes smoother and there becomes linkages of, okay, this section was taken, but because of these reasons, and then in the time frame. Also, we're just wondering, when we talk about introduction and even conclusion, maybe we sing, and particularly when we have lesser time, whether it's an oral story, whether it's writing, we can try avoiding extra words that are not very relevant. For example, when I share a story, I usually do not say, hey, I'm here to tell a story. Maybe I just start sharing, few days back, this something happened to me. and it immediately catches the attention of the audience rather than I directly say, hey, I'm here to tell you a story. So this is maybe I would recommend and suggest people, and even during conclusion also, one point maybe around conflict, because as human we love to know that conflict, that we talk about problem. For example, we were talking about deforestation, but I understand climate change is a big problem, but maybe if it's displacement, so one aspect around displacement. So in a story, I would really expect to have one conflict surrounded by other conflicts, and maybe then if I want to stay hooked, I want to stay hooked till the climax. So who are those characters who made me reach the climax, and then from that climax, making sure we also reach a conclusion. It's not that I always expect, but when I read a story, when I listen to a story, I'm like, maybe some lessons, or even when I share, I want my audience to derive some lessons. Those lessons could be kindness, those lessons could be community engagement. So maybe one or two lessons, so that the audience doesn't just sit and go home, but they have given so much of their time. So just some random thoughts while I was listening to these, but I loved all of these, and thank you for this space. Over to you.
Jaya, what you've described as random thoughts will save us a whole slide, so thank you. And I want to highlight the idea of the hook, character, conflict, that, what is the threat, or what is the problem? And then bringing in how the project or the organization will help to transform that, and bring a resolution. And finally, that call to action, your initial question, what do you want people to do? And it's very hard when you're working on fitting within a time limit to get to that call to action. So I hope you'll I hope that you'll fund us to help do this project. I see Elisa, and then let's take us into this next section, which is about connecting your story to that donor or to the values of your organization. Elisa.
Yes, yeah, just very short. For me, if I'm a donor and I'm reading this, these proposals, I just want, especially Caroline and Tasmin, I just want to know clearly what is the subject and what is the interventions. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Very on task. And I am giving Tasneem short shrift here. I have insider knowledge that part of the reason she told her story as she did is that she's already in conversation about conservation with an aligned donor who's supported the work in the past, which enables her to go more into detail because effectively she's telling a story to an audience that is already familiar with some of those elements we've talked about, the characters, the problem, the landscape, and so on. So that gives her the luxury of that richer detail, and sort of expanding on an initial story already told. And I hope, Tasneem, that I'm not mischaracterizing that moment that you're in.
Susanna, sorry,
Please.
I'm going to jump in 1 second because actually we don't have the time for the section that you were about to go into. I think we have to go straight into the section about writing.
Okay, I'll sum up.
But yes, I think we should sum up, and I think we should really underscore. We had some really good comments. I don't know if you can see the whiteboard that I'm working on, which I'm very, very proud of. For me, I would just like to make a comment that I felt a lot of the things that I've written up in the bit that says what are the features of a good story. I felt the lack of and the desire for a personal story. So I wanted to hear about individuals, and I wanted to hear also about the people themselves and how they are passionate about this, and why they are passionate about it. What is it that's driving their heart to do this work? And yes, there will be there's a lot out there that says have a character, have a person who is and it's not, you're not the organization isn't the hero, right? It should be someone from the community. But I have to say that I've noticed that donors are increasingly also wanting to hear about who you are and why you're doing this. And I feel like we were missing both the characters from the field. So, someone from from the High Atlas had this experience of the earthquake, and the cooperative helped her so much. And she came to me the other day when I was, or phoned me up, or just a little anecdote about someone who, from the field. And then maybe in that anecdote how that made you feel and how you became determined to do this work. So there's that, you bring yourself into the story, bring your characters, bring people, the real people, into the story. For me, that makes the whole difference. And I've noticed that when I do that with donors, it changes everything about how they engage with you. It's you might not actually bring any of the technical details into the 5 minute pitch, because every time you talk to a donor, and you're basically pitching, right? For me, it's every time you're talking to a donor, you have to bring enthusiasm for what you're doing. And increasingly now, you are talking to donors, you're going on Zoom and you're talking to them, and you're not just answering questions, you're proposing, you're coming in, and you have to come in with a story you really want to tell because you really care about it. And so, and you have to show that care and how it's changed you, how it's been transformative for you. And then you can share. And I was just speaking, for me, I'm always fundraising for the fellowship, and I'll quote fellows. I'll say, I was just speaking to someone and they told me this. And people, that's when they get hooked. So for me, it's really important to personalize your beneficiaries, we can, there's other words for that, and to personalize for you, and to remember that whenever you're talking to a donor, you're pitching. So, and I really hate the idea that I'm having a conversation where I'm pitching, which is why we talk about stories instead. You're having a conversation where you're telling a really good story and you're really enthusiastic about it and you're really engaged. So those are my comments, and I think we've captured them all on the whiteboard, but I just wanted to reiterate them.
Sure. And the recording will be available, and we can also, I think, share the text from the whiteboard. Um, uh, and I'm realizing that because the participants here span different groups, we will work on figuring out how to do that effectively. And we're so glad that you're here and have your perspective. Speaking of which, Hakima says, the storyteller's part of the experience too. And Sim says, if you can't see why the storyteller cares, the first link to connecting to the experience is missing. So thank you. The elements that we're skipping over today, but that you should not skip over, are to think through and integrate how to link your story to your organization's mission and values. GDF is engaged in this work because we believe in the importance of supporting Indigenous knowledge and rural livelihood in place for success and resilience. And Tasneem did talk about the important role of resilience and learnings from resilience in the follow-up to the earthquake. And also to the values that your donor has. And we are so excited by the possibility of partnering with you of because we feel our work is so strongly aligned with your X program or your long-term support in this region or whatever it is, right? Okay, that was the shorthand. I think we are surprisingly jumping back to the PowerPoint, one of my least favorite places to be. But let's do that because it does give us that structure that we need to get through this important content. Thank you, Emily, for bringing back the PowerPoint. All right. At the end of the PowerPoint, there are a couple of resources. Global Giving is actually a crowdfunding site, and that's a topic we'll address later, that we have worked with and have had good success with. But they do share some succinct resources that provide sort of standard information on nonprofit storytelling and one distillation of what we collectively have sort of laid out, I think, much more usefully. Okay, so we heard 5-minute stories. But what happens if you're reaching out to this donor who hasn't given you, it doesn't say, call us up and talk. It doesn't say, there's an open call for proposals. Um, um, or you simply have no connection to the donor, but you really would like to establish one. How many of you have maybe seen proposals or even received proposals sort of cold from an organization that's saying, hello, please fund us. And they might not have a good sense of whether you're a funder or just someone working in the field. Um, they have something that they're clearly really passionate about. But the format I often see is that that we might receive a full proposal for something, um, and something that says, please consider this very important proposal for our community. Um, has anyone else had that experience, or is that something that's happening to us because our name is Global Diversity Foundation, even though we're not a foundation per se that does broad grant making? Anyone? Okay. So, our something that we wanted to address because it's an art form and one that connects to other aspects of proposal writing and pitching and reaching out to donors is how to take your story that you're passionate about and turn it into just a few paragraphs, like a 2-paragraph email. So can we, as we just so brilliantly did, crowdsource, what should be the elements of a good reaching out email? What's one of the first things it needs to have? This is an email to reach out to a donor that you haven't previously contacted. What do you need to do? If we've all talked too much, I can just say what I think.
I think we need
Introduce yourself.
Introduce ourselves. Thanks, Ian.
Maybe I would address it personally to the person. And before that, knowing more about that person, maybe through internet, LinkedIn, or whatever, so that the email would be personalized rather than sent to the organization or the foundation. So
Excellent. So even that cold contact or sort of cold outreach has some warmth to it, is as best informed as you can be. Absolutely. If you know anyone who has worked with this organization in the past or might be known to them, you name drop with that person's permission. And yes, you absolutely start by introducing yourself. Who else needs to be introduced in this tight 2 paragraphs? We talk about comics having a tight 5 or a tight 10. We're talking about a tight 2 paragraphs to introduce ourselves and maybe our organization, right? Or our project. Yeah. Introduce the organization. Thank you. Turtle, who are you? All right. But thank you in the text there. All right. Introduce the purpose or specific ask. Ninive, Espinosa, bienvenida. Okay. Gracias. Okay. So, right. Jaya has laid out, I think, the whole thing. Introductions followed by purpose or specific ask. Thank you. All right. Yeah, so starting out, and remember I talked about scalable stories, right? The subject, right? Okay, so the subject, Ray says, your subject line is needs to not just be sending a proposal to your attention, right? It needs to be even that subject line of your email can tell the story, can tell a piece of the story, and is in that context effectively the hook, the initial hook to draw people in. Put the hook in, yes. And I would say getting people to have a meeting where you can verbally tell the story might be the ask. We talked about concluding a story with an ask. Okay, so far we have a subject line. We have introducing self, organization, and self, like I'm Ray, a lifelong conservationist from South Sudan, the home of the largest wildlife migration in Eastern Africa. I don't know if I'm characterizing that correctly, right? So I just told you a story in one sentence. That's a micro story about who I am, and where I am, right? And where I'm grounded, and set myself up to tell you why the next thing I'm going to tell you about that proposal is important. Okay. Um, all right, folks, voices of experience coming in. The ask might be A 15-minute call, right? Not taking too much of your time. Okay, so we've got the subject line, introducing self, introducing the organization I work with, and maybe that's your tagline or the one-line version of your mission. So you've still got some room. Maybe you've used up your first paragraph, maybe not even. And then what's the meat of the matter? Obviously, why are we writing? Um, is to characterize your proposal. So we'll work later on, I think in this series, on creating a really engaging proposal abstract, and it's related to this exercise here. But you want to tell them um, all, if possible, in that paragraph, just almost signaling it telegraphically, like very briefly. All those elements we just talked about. Um, what's the problem? Why does it matter? Um, uh, who are the beneficiaries? Um, if you can tell a story in a sentence or two, um, um, you know, we've been working with Ibrahim, and since the earthquake, uh, he he was initially challenged to find fodder to support the donkeys that were the only way he could maintain his livelihood and support his community in relief efforts. Here's what we did. Here's what needs to happen now. Here's how you can help. That here's how you can help. Last piece of this really compressed effort where every word matters. Like, you're not saying, I'm telling you a story today. You're saying, I was just speaking with Ibrahim and we helped him with this. Here's what he needs now. And here's how we're going to help. Here's our solution that we're asking for your help with, is to connect to the donor. Thank you. Okay. Manya is like way ahead of me here. A specific problem that aligns with their donor agenda has to be said in a way that it makes them feel that they're making a mistake by not funding it. All right. I think collectively in this room, we could turn all of your projects into, you know, a golden set of um, donor outreach. Thank you so much for doing that so quickly. All right. And in 5 minutes, continuing the quickly, I've talked already, and I've just been talking about this question of macro, meso, mini, and micro stories. You can imagine all the scales of story. And I'll be sharing a document that Hakima and Nihad and I and others co-created in the GDF regeneration process. And that is one that tells the GDF story. And it's the GDF menu. And Emily, can you click on it since you're sharing screen, or will it maybe not take you there? All right. And Hakima had the idea of framing this as food for the GDF story. So just go down quickly through the document, please. Okay. So we called the tiniest stories appetizers, right? And here we're telling the whole organization story. So this isn't a specific proposal. We're living in a broken world, disconnected from each other and from nature. Here's the problem that we're solving, all right? And then you can see soups and salads, main dishes. We told that I named that problem in larger and larger ways. Moving down. Okay, so this is about sourcing language from your team about what you do. All right. What's the solution you're going to deliver? GDF reconnects people, land, and life. Okay. Or our work is one of repair and healing, and it goes on, right? So, and keep on going down. All right. So we've answered a series of questions that donors often ask in different ways. What makes GDF different? Okay. We have a relational approach and so on. And then just go all the way down, given our time, and we will share this with you. Okay. And then we're thinking about having specific stories. Could you click on the second tab? Or actually, I don't think you need to. Okay, and go down quickly. So we asked every member of our team to answer a set of questions for different audiences, coming back to audience again. And now Emily, and with your clicking gymnastics, if you can go back to the PowerPoint. Good luck. All right. It's
I'm
the
sorry, I'm going to have to stop and start the share because I just don't know
share.
how to do that.
Okay.
That is beyond my technical capacity.
No
Sorry.
worries. We'll share the exercise that we went through to generate those different pithy and expanded elements of story. And that was asking our team members, all of our team members from multiple continents. Go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Nope.
This is it?
Nope.
Where am I?
Again, I don't know where you are. Go to the next.
Yeah.
Oh, shucks, it didn't make it in.
You want
All right.
this one?
Yes, brilliant. I knew I'd done it. All right. So again, you see some of these elements that have been emerging from our conversation. The hook, right? The problem, what's the problem? And then what's the solution you're going to deliver? How is it unique? Why you? Why now? And what will be the impact? But then we asked folks to complete that for their grandmother, if they're on good speaking terms, they're a donor, a peer or colleague, someone immersed in the field. Someone's going to ask you, like, did you take too much of the elephant dung out of the ecosystem? And a friend who's not in the field, like Artie, who's like, wait, why did you choose to do this now? What are you doing with elephant dung and mushrooms, right? So, by exercising the muscle of answering these questions for a variety of audiences, you can actually generate a document that then you can come in and take from next time it's time to write a proposal or practice for speaking with a donor. Okay, moving on, I believe, or perhaps back. Thanks, Em, for your flexibility. I am sharing some resources and with a commitment to end on time. So, thank you, everyone. This PowerPoint will be available. The resources listed in it will be available, and we'll make that our worked example and that template for ways to tell stories available as well. We're just starting the conversation. There'll be more about storytelling because it is so essential, and I realize we've just scratched the surface here. And please know that for CCF Fellows particularly, and all the members of the GDF team, we are so excited, and you hear those among you, fellows, who are already well versed in this art of storytelling. And you can, with their permission, reach out to them as well as to us. And we're glad to help any of you work through stories targeted for a specific goal audience, be it pitch, a proposal, or trying to match that burning story that you have and need that you have in your work to an appropriate funder. Thank you.
Well done, Susanna. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in quickly because we actually would like to prep you for the next session.
Exactly.
So we'd like to invite Laura, who is with us. Where are you, Laura? To tell us. We actually have some time, Susanna. We're not.
Oh my God.
We're not behind time. It's fine.
You had me in a panic.
Yeah, no worries. Laura, please can you introduce the next session and invite volunteers?
Thank you so much, Emily. Well, I am very, very pleased to be part of this program. It's amazing. And of course, I have seen your profile, and I'm quite nervous because you are top people, expert on many fields. So I hope I can provide something very creative. This is not in a plain way. Theory of change is not plain. Nevertheless, we want to make it this more participative and more, let's say, disruptive this time. So basically, we will work on two things. First of all, is volunteers for the next session. I will send an email to Emily with this, we don't need to decide now, but probably in the next week. So three of you, I would be pleased to work with three of your projects. We will have one session prior, very, very quick, 30 minutes from your lovely time to discuss about the how would you like to address your project in terms of a theory of change. Then we will come with our session on the 17th of December, right? Yeah, on the 17th of December. And as I have seen that time, you are like really, really keen to participate. I was thinking to design, or because I had like sometimes it's like 45 minutes while we have a piece of presentation and then we work and so on. So probably if I would start with more questions regarding this. Well, first of all, the main presentation, and it's not going to be long. So we have time for these breakout rooms and then coming back. I have seen a little bit what are you are seeking for, or what type of information you want, and you really want to go in practice. So apart from those projects that we will present, I will come with more examples, especially when we really need to elaborate the theory of change, and also with some particular do not things or thing, let's say, to avoid. In the breakout rooms, we had a talk about how we present the projects, or because uh, we were discussing that many projects are good. Sometimes I don't not in this group, but not all of them from my point of view, but sometimes they are really well presented. So these tools, let's see this theory of change as a tool to organize our actions and our thoughts in order to achieve the goal we have. Sometimes we have one goal in mind, and when we really go over this, and this is my experience with GDF colleagues, we decide that the real goal was other things like protecting human rights instead of necessarily conservation activities, because it was like probably the main or the most urgent thing to cover or to undertake, or the activities to be undertaken. So we will discover what we have. I want, of course, we have a presentation, and we will have you will have this information. I will prepare a one pager with key concepts. I don't want to bring you a ton of information because you can find it in many places, but I want to bring particular information about your project. So once we have this very quick meeting, I will elaborate the um, one pager with some examples from your projects. That would be probably more useful. And then we will come with specific matters. So I will ask if Emily kindly organize this meeting.
Yes.
It will be very, very short, like 30 minutes, just to see what you want to address. And it will be in your best time availability, at your best time availability. And what else it's important to think that please bring all your questions. I have seen that you are really, really into that, because of course we can always come back to the presentation or the information and ask me about other technical things, but bring whatever you have. Would you always wanted to know about theory of change? Probably I will not have all all the information you needed, but at least we will try to have a participative session. I have seen that
Yes.
this very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And I'd like to say that we've done this with Laura before, where the volunteers who share their theory of change in the session then get follow-up support from Laura to help improve their theory of change. And the theory of change is very connected to the story, right? The more you know your theory of change, the better you're able to tell your story, because your story becomes about the change that you're going to make. So in an ideal world, we'd leave today with 3 volunteers. Anyone want to put their hand up? so that Laura, because the reason she wants to have a quick pre-meeting with you before the 17th is so that you can come to the session with a basic theory of change that then can be discussed. Again, we want to use lived examples. We want to make this about exercises that you can do. So Pavi, Jaya, are you volunteering?
And Manya is raising a hand as well.
And Manya. Oh,
Oh, and
God,
Sarah.
yes. And so, who came first? I don't know. Laura, let's talk about potentially having 4 people, given that we have these 4 wonderful volunteers. So, yes, let's have you 4, and we'll see whether all of you, whether we can all bring you into the session, or whether maybe I think Laura needs to just assess space and time on the session, but we'll try our best, and we'll oh, Rui, you came in really too late. I'm sorry, but do share your theory of change with Laura and I, and if Laura can't make it to your theory of change, I definitely will. So thank you. And we'll organize a quick meeting so that Laura can just explain what's needed, so that you've got your homework in advance. So has someone taken notes? Sim, Sarah, Jaya, Manya, and Pavi. Fantastic. And
Emily.
Rui is a backup. And I'll be in touch with you, Rui. Okay.
Emily,
Wonderful.
I'm gonna jump back in if I may. I was just going to say that I had never had 2 hours fly by so fast, and that was because that was a tight 90 minutes. So if I may, I'd just like to wrap up because we covered a lot of terrain, right? Starting from the idea of a proposal as story, to hearing folks' stories, to imagining what more we wanted from their stories, to demonstrating our excitement about their stories in our questions. Um, and so just to sort of to summarize, if you go back to slide 8, sorry, if you can, or I can just say it. All right. Emily's flying through the slides here. All right. So here's the classic advice, and we did better. The classic advice is to center your story on a single character, right? And we talked about how actually, while the classic advice is not to center your organization, that emergently we find that centering yourself as like the person who walks the donor into the importance of your work can be really effective because you're there in the room for them to relate with. And that then you might bring in someone who's part of that story, who's connected to that story, who's a beneficiary of your work, or has challenged you. When I tell the story of why I do what I do, a group of coffee farmers in rural Highland Costa Rica were asked to conserve their community farm, and they pushed back against the conservation easement that donors wanted to impose. And my story of why I do what I do is they said, Susanna, go find out what these conservation easements do and whether they enable livelihood or take power away from people's ability to make their way in the world and take care of the place where they live. And that launched my conservation journey, right? So that is a way that I can bring my mentors in to the story. And then from that hook, why is this critical? People and elephants are in conflict. Communities are facing unsustainable transitions under climate change and are seeking to reroute in sustainable livelihoods. In where Caroline told her story, right? The high Atlas cultural landscapes have just, and the people there and the women in cooperatives have just taught us indelible lessons about what resilience looks like. And we want to build on that for a better future. Okay. So what is the transformation that has already occurred or that we're seeking through this project? Chronicle a transformation. Show, don't tell. Give that rich detail. Go back to slide 8. Oh, you are on slide 8. Sorry, that was me. All right, show don't tell. We talked about that rich detail about introducing yourself in a single line in your email in a way that situates the reader relative to who you are and where you are. I'm a lifelong conservationist in a conflict zone. I should have said that's also home to the largest wildlife migration in East Africa. Tell me more, right? Convey your character's emotions. And this, I want to appreciate, this is from Global Giving, as I said. And that's one, are people frustrated with the elephants? Are they bewildered by climate change? Are they angry at everything, at the slowness of the government to respond, if that's something it's safe to talk about in your context, right? What are the emotions? And then concluding, as a number of you told us, with a clear call to action. In that email, it's, can I ask for 15 minutes of your time to see if this is aligned with your priorities as I think it is, as I believe it is? Can you, if you're crowdfunding, can you make a donation to our cause? If you're talking to that local business, can you support our festival? Can you, whatever the next step is. If this is in the context of a proposal, right, which these elements of story might well be worked through in the different little boxes and sections that are uh, available to you, that clear call to action. We believe by partnering with us, we can transform local livelihoods, build on our pilot project, and really make a difference. Okay. Not every story needs to look the same or follow this particular format, but many of these elements and that overall call, show, don't tell, and we'll be coming back to that, where instead of simply rattling off numbers or telling me about the altitude above sea level and the montane vegetation, I also hear rich detail that brings me into the place, brings me into the problem, makes me care through whatever characters I've presented. And the character can be a creature, the character can be an ecosystem, if you can pull that off. But draws people in and is sticky, holds them there so you can tell your story and make your ask. All right, I want to respect your time and all of your brilliance and ideas. And thank you all for starting this journey with us today. And there's so much more to be said. And following Laura's good offer of a one-pager, we'll condense the links that we've mentioned, some of the key content and resources, and encourage you, we'll make that a Google document and encourage you to add to it because you all collectively know far more than any one of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. And just a little bit of housekeeping is that we are meeting again on the 17th of December at the same time. I think it's a Thursday next time though. Gosh, I don't know if normally it's, no, it's a Wednesday, So this time was a Thursday. From now on, it was actually going to be a Wednesday. So Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central European time. It's a 2-hour session normally. And we'll be getting in touch with the volunteers in advance of that. And yeah, Sim reminds us that if you, for those of you who are external and who have joined through someone else, please share your emails with us so that we can keep you in touch with any updates. So there are a few people from the Asana network who can share their emails with me or Susanna or Simran, and that is our name followed by @global-diversity.org.
Okay.
So
give an example.
Yes.
In the chat.
Yeah, Emily at global.
Look at us go.
And Susanna, I'm doing it in the wrong chat. Susanna no, not Susanna. Laura will be with us next time talking about theory of change, which I should say, I heard someone call theory of transformation today. And they said that's the new lingo. We're not supposed to call it theory of change anymore. We're supposed to call it theory of transformation. So let's have a think about what that means. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day. We look forward to continuing the series with you. It'll be very exciting. As you'll have seen, we'll also be talking about post-capitalist philanthropy and all sorts, as well as going into the nitty-gritty details of how to deal with proposal templates and budgets, etc. So there's just a lot of variety in this series, and we look forward to keeping you with us for the next 10 months. See you soon.
And we're so glad to have folks from these different networks, and I'm already appreciating the cross-fertilization in the questions that are emerging, and the feedback that we're getting between Conservation Communities Fellows, Asana Network members, and our brilliant staff. So keep it coming. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Oh,
everyone.
bye.
Bye-bye. I think that's a question.
Bye-bye, guys.
Yes, for those who are still here, the volunteers will meet before.
Yes, so
we'll
we'll get Laura. I'll write an email to
Bye,
the volunteers
Simon.
and Laura, and you'll organize a quick meeting before. Okay, Jaya, does that work for you?
Yes, and just to ask, so do I have to think around my POC before that meeting also? We'll
No,
just look at everything during that.
no, exactly. You don't have to. She will tell you what to prep for the meeting. That way, we'll organize it over the next week so that you've got some time. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Sarah,
Bye
did
now.
that answer your question? Thank you, Manita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manita. You were really great. Excellent
Yes,
story.
people loved your project, Manita.
Thank you, Ninive.
Very, very articulate.
Thank you. I didn't know that people really like it, even though I did it in in an event.
Excellent. And I bet you your breakout room was just asking you about elephant dung rather than actually talking about the story.
Yeah, sure.
All right. And Ninive, thank you for being here from Crema.
Okay. Thank you, Ninive. Okay, so
Thank you, Sim, for making it possible to do all the technical things.
gosh, we do need 3 people on this though, because when I share screen, girls, I don't know how to do anything else on my computer. Like that's me done. I can't open anything else on.
Because it takes up the whole screen.
But it also takes up Chrome. Sim needs to teach me how to not make it take up Chrome because I couldn't open the running order. Suze, we need to have a little workshop on how to use a running order.
Dude,
you can just share like one part of your screen. You can choose which of your screen. You can choose a tab.
I did.
Choose the window, so you can open whatever in something else.
I couldn't manage it now, Timmy. I couldn't manage it. I couldn't get there. So I opened my running. Suze, you did brilliantly. It was great. People were very engaged. We had 5 volunteers for next week. It means that people really liked it. So it's absolutely brilliant. I know that we were a bit chaotic on our management. And that's because, Suze, we had 0 time to organize this. We were in Kenya most of the time that we were supposed to be organizing it. So you did amazingly. You were unflappable. And I couldn't have done that with the absolutely 0 time that there was to prep. So kudos to you. And
can I tell you how asleep I was last night when I was trying to assemble this PowerPoint from your excellent notes?
You made this last night? Are you serious? It looks so polished. What the hell?
I created the whole template. Emily was like, could you create a template and also a PowerPoint? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Susie, you did really well, and people were very engaged. So yeah, it's a 2-hour session. The reason I was hurrying you on was because we'd actually asked the people to prepare their emails to share with us.
Oh,
so we
God.
we were going to ask them to share their emails that they'd written.
Right. No, I totally
It's fine. It's fine. Taz hadn't realized it, and it's fine. But Sim's feedback is brilliant, and let's have more of them doing exercises together. Let's get them doing it.
Yeah.
not just breakout rooms to discuss things, but let's get them practicing things, like writing things and pulling budgets together.
And we should have had the storytellers retell their stories in light of that feedback.
Or have someone else tell that story for them. How would someone else tell that story?
Oh, yes.
You know, with all of that. So it's yeah, just to give
Yeah.
everyone some buy-in to each session. Like,
Yeah. I know.
but you guys did amazingly. And for the next one, when you give me your calendar, I will actually check how much time you leave between when you come back from something and when you begin doing things. I know there is something to be said for momentum and all of that, but there is also something to be said for
And
jet
they had a
lag and
session
tiredness
yesterday.
and yeah, illness and all
They
of
had a
that. So,
session yesterday.
yeah, I know. I opened the thingy for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you need a break, a little bit like a 2 week break. No one is going to forget you guys exist, you know, like it's.
Right. And Lucia has
Sim,
the flu, so I haven't been sleeping.
so you have now the running order list, right? So next session it's Laura Vallejo, and I'll get her to include her running order here. But yeah, we need 3 people on this. There's someone facilitating, there's someone hosting, someone facilitating, and then someone on tech. Because the fact that I was sharing the screen meant I couldn't. And Suze, I'm sorry, I jumped in on a number of times just because I was sort of seeing what we'd said we'd do as well on the running order. So I hope you don't mind me jumping in.
Right. And I think it's actually, I was prepared to be done at 9. I was going to wrap it at 9:30. Because
Right.
that's
Okay. So
my belief.
you hadn't got that. Yeah. So it's a 2-hour session. We don't have to fill the 2 hours, by the way. It can finish at 1:45, like it did today. I think that's absolutely fine. It's just that we want them to block out 2 hours so they don't start leaving. You know,
Which they
before
didn't.
the end.
So I think we were doing okay.
I think we did okay because people stayed right until the end. So it clearly was something that they were enjoying and getting a lot out of. So I got to run, otherwise I'll be wrapped on and of course for being late.
Oh my God. Go, go, go. Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving, Suze. You did amazingly. Well done. Be proud of
Yeah, now I
yourself.
have to go make pies.
You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Oh my God. Yeah. Until I get the flu, it's going to be great.
You won't.
Thanks so much.